morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. That piece of music was Parson's Farewell. It's a traditional tune, and the band is Belshazzar's Feast. Musicians are Paul Sarton and Paul Hutchinson. It's on the album John Playford's Secret Ball, and you can buy it directly from Paul Hutchinson. We will be posting that information for you. Thanks for joining us. We're really happy to be here on third Saturdays. We are the Historical Tea and Dance Society, and I'm Darlene Hamilton. On our team, we have Lindsay Verbal assisting with the program, handling media and guest questions. And we have Reed Wilson monitoring Zoom for those same questions and doing the posting. Ooh, love your background, Reed. Doing the postings that you need to know about on Zoom. And in Facebook, we have Larry Hansen with us, and he's posting there and grabbing all those questions. So obviously, I've mentioned the chat box several times. Make sure you know where it is. Any questions you have for our guest, we're going to have you put them in there, and we will grab them all and put them in our handy dandy little chart. And if we don't get to them during the web chat, which we probably won't, come to the after talk, which is right after this. If you signed up for our Zoom seminar, you will already have that link. If not, wait until the very end. We will post it several times. You will need to grab it and join us there as soon as the show ends, where we'll be one-on-one with Paul. So we're looking forward to that. Guess I'll get right into a bio. I'm so used to saying thank you to Karen Axelrod and friends. So we'll just say that anyways. Thank you to Karen Axelrod and friends, because we love that show on Tuesdays. Okay, let me go right into that bio. Paul Hutchinson is one of the leading accordionists in the United Kingdom. Together with Paul Sarton, in the duo Belshazzar's Feast, he has spent 2 decades touring the UK and performing on radio and TV, earning a nomination in 2010 as Best Duo at the BBC Folk Awards. Belshazzar's Feast has recorded many albums, including John Playford's Secret Ball and 2 volumes of Mr. Kinnison's famous dance. Paul's other bands have included the Pagoda Project, in which he and clarinetist Karen Wilmhurst fused folk and jazz improvisation, producing the album Clarion. Karen and Paul then joined together with cellist Gil Redman and violinist Siona Pritchard to form the Maniacs, recording an album of decomposed 18th century dance music. This album was improvised based on 10 variations of dance tunes from Paul's book, 60 Country Dance Tunes from 1786 to 1800, published by Faber. Paul's new album, Petrichor, features guests from around the world, including some of our past 5 Things guests, and we'll hear more about that a little bit later on. Please welcome Paul Hutchinson. We're so happy to have you with us. Hi.
Well,
and I think you were going to tell us, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for accepting. You're going to tell us a little bit about that opening piece, aren't you?
I am actually, because it's the 20th anniversary of that album. We recorded it in 2001 because we wanted to cash in on the 350th, not cash in, commemorate the 350th anniversary of the first edition of the Dancing Master. So that's what we did. Recorded our favourite tunes from the first edition, and that was one of them. So there we are. Shall I carry on now?
Let me hold up the card, because people will be upset if I don't hold up the card. Yeah. We're going to jump right into them. Thing number 1, the early years.
Yeah, okay, this might come as a shock to some people who do know me, that my ambition as a teenager was to be a Morris dancer. And so I went along and joined a local team when I lived down in Bournemouth. And when I got there, I realised there was a slight lack of a musician. There were lots of men and no musicians. So someone there knew I played piano, also knew my father had an accordion. And so they said, why don't you learn to play that? And you can play for us. Well, as most people will know, Morris tunes are fairly easy. And so it was a great way of getting into playing accordions. And at the beginning, I could probably only play the right hand. And bit by bit, I learned the left hand, and it seemed to go quite well. So well that my local clog dance team asked me to play for them, and then the rapper sword team asked me to play for them, and I was playing for all these dance teams. And then my father, who was a folk dance musician, decided he wanted to be a caller. So he started writing dances, and so he said to me, "Why don't you get a band together?" Which I did. So, and I got a band called the Old Pull and Push. And the Old Pull and Push was originally you had two members. Yeah, there we go. I see fashion statement even in those days. The Old Pull and Push had two members of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra in as well. So it was really good, a really good band actually. And I have to tell you, they're still going after all these years. But I did it for about 12 years and then I stopped. But in that time, we did so many gigs because we lived in a seaside town. And during the summer, we played in all these hotels, like 6 nights a week, playing for dances for the holidaymakers. And so we kind of just played lots and lots. We eventually got invited to Sidmouth Festival. And if anyone's been to Sidmouth Festival and enjoyed the Anchor Gardens dances, they were started by the Old Pull and Push way back. Because there were callers who weren't booked at the festival, so we invited them along. So it was our event, and it still goes, and it's a really, really big event now. So the Anchor Gardens were ours, and we played lots of other festivals as well. But then, as I say, I started my own business, so I gave up music altogether for about 12 years. And then I went back to it, and I was recruited to join a band called The Life of Riley, and The Life of Riley was produced by Martin Rushent, who was the producer of The Stranglers, Buzzcocks, Human League, bands like that. And there was a bypass being built or being planned around the town of Newbury, and it caused a lot of controversy because they could have taken the road through a golf course, but of course the Tory MPs lobbied and got it moved. So they pulled a load of trees down and built the bypass there. But we did this single, and because the bypass was approved, we didn't get any work and didn't get any fame or fortune. So, but the band used to meet in a container in a field, and for the first 2 months, I managed not to talk to Paul Sarton. He was in the band as well. And then our very first gig, I wish it had stayed like that, by the way, but at the very first gig, at the end of it, I thought I'd better go and try and make contact with him. So I went, he was standing by himself in a corner, and I said, well, that was a good gig, just a bit of small talk, it's a good gig, did you enjoy it? And he said, if I were you, I'd go away. So I said, why? He said, because I've just broken wind. And that was how we met each other. And so we formed, after a while, we left this band and went out as a duo, and we played at Sidmouth, and that's where we met Andrew Shaw, and who, I don't know if you know this, he's the son of Pat Shaw. Anyway, Andrew Shaw, that's not true, by the way. Don't ask questions about it, it's not true. Andrew Shaw, who we didn't know, and I'll talk about that later, but we worked with him all week in St. Teresa's Hall there, and anyway, we ended up by recording some music for him as well. We also somehow or other got invited to the United States, where we met Philippe Calonze. And I'm sorry, of course, the sad news recently, Philippe died, but we shared a car journey from Ann Arbor to Traverse City, and because we were struggling musicians, we could only afford a shrink limo, and we offered Philippe a lift. It's like, I don't know, 300 miles. And of course, we were out there for 3 weeks, so we had loads of CDs, all our instruments, a couple of shirts each, and we somehow crammed, there we are, there's Paul and I as young boys. We managed to cram Philippe into the back, and we drove all the way out to Ann Arbor. Yes. So Paul Sarton, when I met him, was a chorister at Oxford. He was at Magdalen College. He was a lay clerk with the cathedral there. I had a small holding, and that's my sheep. And anyway, so Paul and I came to America. We then produced several CDs, mainly listening albums. We were really into concerts more than dancers at the time. And we have played all over the world, which is quite amazing. Most recently in Australia and the Seychelles. We were invited by the British High Commission. Why, you might ask, but we did. We went to play with the local fishermen. So it was a very bizarre thing. So we had lots of adventures in the States, by the way, including driving through the middle of New York in a hired truck, and all sorts of things happened. But so that's basically how I started, how I came to have an accordion, how I came to the States, how I met Sartin. And at the end of this section, it'd be quite nice to play another track from Playford's Secret Ball, because I've got quite a few CDs left and I want to get rid of them. So this is Gathering Peas Cods. Gathering Peas Cods. Well, not Gathering Peas Cods. There we are.
Yeah.
Gathering
Thank you. That was great. Okay. Thing number 2. My unique style.
Here's my unique accordion. It's a Brute. It's Italian, and I'd just like to say that I can answer a lot more questions in the questions section if you're interested. But first of all, there are a lot of skeptics about the accordion. I think a lot of people don't like the accordion. It's fair enough, I don't either. But I learned to play it, and so I do it. And one of my many fans is, of course, the Royals. They're all my mates, and I am appointed to Prince Philip, who's been unwell lately, but he is a bit better now. And here we are with him. This was at the Queen's Jubilee back in, I don't know how many years ago now, but and he and I met. And he was asking some tips about my accordion, where I learned, and could he have lessons. So there we are, Prince Philip and me. So my style of accordion playing has come from listening to other musicians. As I said, I'm not a great fan of the accordion per se, but I like listening to other musicians, and I tried to ape the sounds of other musicians make on my instrument. I had piano lessons from about the age of 6, and I did all my grades in piano, and then I went on to the church organ, and for a while I was a church organist for a Unitarian church in Bournemouth, which meant we kind of just met once a week on a Sunday morning, and in the evenings I would freelance. I would play anywhere that needed me, and so I played in high Catholic churches to spiritualist churches, and it was a great experience actually, and prepared me for folk dancing, of course. And so a lot of my style of accordion playing comes from being a church organist, and I love hymns. I still love hymns, and I suppose what I tried to do, because the accordion is a bit like the church organ in a sense, in that there's a lot of it, and the church organ has several manuals, sometimes 3-4 manuals. Then you've got the organ stops to pull out, and then you've got the pedals. And so I learned to multitask. And so when I came to play the accordion, it wasn't so difficult, because of course you've got the buttons here, which you can't see. You've got these, which are like the organ pedals, the stops, organ stops. I've got more here. And then of course you've got the thing in the middle, the bellows. And the bellows not only gives you volume, but it gives you rhythm as well. So that's it. So I loved hymns, and I learned to play on a church organ. I would play the treble line, the alto line, and sometimes even the tenor line. So I would play that, and on the left hand I learned after a while that I don't really like the chords on the left hand at all. So these are so mushy. Whereas the chords on the right are really clean. Plus the fact I can play some of the more colourful notes in a chord, like seconds rather, fourths, sixths, major sevenths. I can do those on the right hand. I can do suspensions. Which on the left hand sound a bit horrible actually, and I can't do them. I don't know where they are. So what I've learned to do in the end is play sort of single bass, and particularly this lovely deep bass. And I took that style into particularly, I suppose, historic dance, particularly the Playford. And I think it's true to say when I started, I used drones all the time, continuo basso. I wanted to create that kind of nice bass. And I didn't want that umpa sort of style. So I've been teaching. My parents were both teachers, and they wanted me to be a teacher as well. And the thought of that horrified me. So I've become an accordion teacher and a music teacher for workshops and things by chance. And it was Dave Townsend from Melstock Band. I don't know if you know them in America. And also Karen Tweed, who you probably do know. They persuaded me to teach. And so I went to Folkworks and things like that, which is held in Durham in the summer school. And that's where I started teaching and passing on all my bad habits. Then Sam Lee, who was about to be in Warhorse, wanted some lessons. So I ended up by teaching at Cecil Sharp House. And I taught there from about 2005 up until last year, when I just felt I've done it for too long. And so I just retired from that. So I did that a long time. So I am influenced by the church organ, harmoniums, violins. I love violins. My favourite violinist, apart from Shearer, who might be here, is of course Martin Hayes. Do you all know Martin Hayes? No? Yes? Maybe? No? Okay, well, he's just, he plays Irish tunes in a sort of Baroque style. I just love his playing. He slows everything down. Made a big influence on me anyway. I just wanted to sound like him. So I play all these grace notes, and that's me trying to be a violin. I also play the pedals, or the drones, because I wanted to be Liam Pipes. And the first time I saw a band called the Bothy Band, there was a guy sat at the front of the stage with these, like a whole load of plumbing bits of equipment and whatnot, and then he started playing, and then came this beautiful drone, and it just made the hairs of the neck stand up. It was just lovely. So I've used drones, and as I said, I think I possibly overused them in the beginning, but that's why I didn't know anything else. So I write a lot of tunes now for teaching purposes, and I'm going to play one for you now. It's called Life in the Bus Lane, and it kind of demonstrates all my left-hand techniques. So if you're an accordionist, you don't ever need to come to a lesson anymore. I'm going to show you everything I do. So this is a tune I wrote for my Cecil Sharp House crowd, and it's called Life in the Bus Lane because I went through, I suppose, a period, and I bought a Jaguar. I bought it as a car, not the animal. And I'd only had it a few days. There's my Jaguar, and there's my dog Jess. And I bought this car, and I got caught in a bus lane in London. And yes, it's my dog's. And so I bought this car, and I got stopped for being in a bus lane. But the upside of it was I got a £60 fine. But I did get 4 beautiful photographs of my car, so I thought it was a win-win. And so this is a tune, Life in the Bus Lane. So the first section, I would start with the S section, which is in E. And this is a typical church organ idea. So I might start with an E pedal, and then just a tune. Then I'd add some harmony notes. Might do that a few times. And then the tune properly starts here. And I love fifths because, as I say, I was really into hurdy-gurdies even, and they have this. And so this tune has quite a few sections deliberately, so I can demonstrate all the different ideas. Here's my pedal. And this time I'm going to play the pedal, but with those three major chords of, it's a D pedal, it's with a G and a C. The one reason I don't like accordions is so many accordionists play this sort of vamping style. So I've been trying to spend most of my life stopping people doing that. So here's this third section. This is a waltz rhythm. So this time I'm going to do it. Back to the organ style, here's my sustained chords in the left hand. And then the last part is a bit I started with, but this time I'm going to play a moving bass, so the bass line will be like this. So very much like the, I suppose, like a church organ. And so that's all the things I ever do in all the tunes I ever play. So now you know, you see. So that was it really for that section, Life in the Bus Lane, and that tells you what I do. So next time I'm playing for a dance, you'll know exactly what's going on.
That was great. That was really great. Loved getting that education. Thank you so much. And we have a lot of comments. And yes, people actually do know who that violinist is. So don't worry about that.
He's nearly the best. Okay, playing for dance. That's all that.
Thing number 3.
Yeah, well, I played in a lot of duos. Obviously, Belshazzar's Feast was a duo, but I've also worked with people like John Hymas, who I'll introduce you to in a bit. More recently, Karen Wimhurst, who's in Pagoda Project with me. A chap called Richard Heacock, who lives nearby, and Fiona Barrow. And I think Fiona Barrow has been over a few times with Eddie J. Anyway, and I occasionally play with her. In the UK, mainly it's was for a long time Belshazzar's Feast. And then, as I say, we met Andrew Shaw at Sidmouth. And Andrew Shaw, I remember this vividly. He took us to the pub, the Radway Arms. I only remember it vividly because it's the only time he's ever bought me a drink. And he said to me, are you serious about this music? So we said, well, we're serious about the music. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we enjoy good music, really. And yes, there's Paul Sartre. I'm doing his hair for him before a gig. And then Andrew Shaw invited us to record the first 2 of his dance books, the music for his dance books, and Nathaniel, the Kynaston 1 and 2. I don't know if you know much about Kynaston or whether you're even remotely interested in Nathaniel Kynaston, but he lived on the Welsh borders between Oswestry and Welshpool, and it's right on the border of Wales and Cheshire. And he owned a corner shop as well. Some of this may be true, by the way, some may not be. But anyway, he wrote some amazing tunes, I think, actually, and wrote some obviously amazing dances. You'll know better than me about that. But we worked so hard as Belshazzar's Feast to play our music inventively. So we did a lot of improvisation because I believe, but it doesn't matter who it is, who you're playing with, it's kind of a musical conversation. Sometimes I listen to some bands, it feels more like an argument, but we always try to listen to one another, and certainly with John Hymas, we might take turns of playing the tune so the other one can go off on one, and therefore it keeps the music a little bit more interesting, because very often we don't know what we're going to do, and often the improvisation takes a tune on a musical journey we hadn't expected. So we just love creating different. We could never play the same tune the same way twice. It never happened. And so often Andrew at a dance weekend would say, let's do that again. And we play it differently the second time because we can remember what we'd just done. So I suppose it's an empathy with the dancers is what we're aiming for. And I hope the dancers respond to us as well. And I think mostly they do. So I suppose, creating tension in the music, and I do that by playing my drones. Anyone who saw Belshazzar's Feast, Playing for Dancers, know we also like humour, and so many of these tunes are, there we are in the Costa del Folk. We get sent out to wherever Costa del Sol is. All I know is it's about 2 hours on a cramped aeroplane. And we played there, and there's another one that was in Australia, actually. So, we liked humour in our music, and we like developing tunes, creating variations. We like to think we can influence the dancers. So I'm very interested. I might ask you lots some questions at the end, but I wonder about creating variations, whether it does people even notice. And I remember at a course at Horsley Manor a few years ago, and this is another question for later on, but I'll say it now before I forget, is the fact that I sometimes wonder, why do we have to play a set tune? You can think about that. I'll come back to it. But we like to influence the dancers in any way we can. So by creating this tension using drones and then releasing the drones, we hope it lifts the music in some way or other. So we did that for a long time as Belshazzar's. We had a brief break from Belshazzar's Feast. We both got a bit jaded, I think. And for a while I worked with John Hymas, who I worked with in a band called Hoover the Dog, which is a sort of Celtic jazz band. And I can remember telling Andrew Shaw, I don't know if Andrew Shaw's here, probably not, but I remember telling him, by the way, Belshazzar's Feast is split up. He was absolutely livid. And I said, well, I've got this other guy, I've been working with for a long time, John Hymas. And he said, well, does he like the music? And I said, probably not. I mean, he's played in a symphony orchestra in Porto in Portugal, and I can't believe he liked every piece that he had to play. So, anyway, we did the first gig we ever did with John. Andrew melted. He loves John Hymas almost as much as he loves Rebecca King, your Rebecca King, and so he does. He got over it, and I still work with John. We don't do that many dances, I'm afraid, but when we do, it's always such a great fun. Really, it's entertaining, and so we don't do enough. Belshazzar's Feast still go. We got back together again. This is our 25th year, and so we only do concerts these days. And here's a short clip, and this is particularly apt because it is a tune called Softly Good Thomas, which you all know is a Kynaston. So this is our irreverent version of it, or irrelevant version. So this is from the BBC. That's enough of that. So that was a show we did for the BBC, I think probably 10 years ago. And the thing about it, we got paid £86 each for that. It wasn't just us, it was Bella Head and a few other bands as well. £86. It gets shown every Christmas, about times. So it's been shown about 40 times, plus it's been aired all around the world. And so there's a thing. So the money was rubbish. But it was fun doing it. And we recorded it in October. It went out just before Christmas. And we had to pretend it was snowing, and everyone had come in from the cold. And of course, it was raining that night. On the night it was actually aired, Paul and I were up in North Yorkshire playing, and we got snowed in. So I thought it was a bit of irony. Anyway, so we've always had a bit of fun with our music. And I'm glad I was able to find a clip with a Swanee whistle, because I think possibly that's why we stopped playing for social dance. I think we went just a bit too far one day when we played Orange Nan, Orange Nan, and he did it on Swanee whistle all the way through, and most people were quite amused. We were very amused, but then we're very childish. But a lot of the dancers were really a bit cross. Anyway, but that's what we did. So one of the next track we're going to play, and this is the last bit of this section, is a video. It's a recording from an album, and this is a tune. I don't know if anyone's played this tune called Buckinghamshire Thumper, and it's one of my complaints about sometimes we're given tunes that are really horrible, and this is one of them. And while the caller was teaching the dance, I turned the music upside down because I thought it can't be any worse upside down, and actually it turned out to be an absolute gem. So we recorded it and called it, well, it was called the Buckinghamshire Bumper for a while. It became known as Bumpers. And so this is an arrangement I made of this tune and recorded on a later album by Belshazzar's Feast. So it's Bumpers. Gave me an opportunity to read some of the comments. There's a great one here, Deb Carl. At least he hasn't started playing a game of Consequences. Well, that's something we started doing a few years ago at concerts, where we would use the dance books 1 and 2. The 3 wasn't available then, and we picked out tunes from there. Do you know the game Consequences? Well, it's a game we used to play as kids. Party game at Christmas, and what happens is you have a boy meets a girl and at a certain place, and then he said, she said, and a consequence. And we found all the titles for each section in the English country dance books 1 and 2, and we got audience members to shout out numbers, and we had them all listed, and then we made up a great medley of tunes, and so that was it. So playing for dancing has taught us a lot of good tunes and a lot of bad tunes as well. So there we are. It's the end of that bit.
That was great. I like that game. All right, thing number 4. I've never played for dances. Yeah.
I've never danced at all. As I say, right at the beginning, I tried to join the Morris side and they wouldn't let me. I did Cayley dancing when I was younger, but I've never danced playful. It looks too blooming difficult, actually. And I watch people sort of getting into a complete muddle with it. It's much easier to play the music, I believe you and me. And so this comment comes up every now and again. I hear people saying, oh, you can't play this sort of music if you've never danced it. And I always think that can't quite be right, you know. For example, my answer to that is always, well, I don't expect the Royal Ballet orchestra, pit orchestra, can do pliés and will don tutus and stuff like this. So I don't think it's, I'm sure this is probably going to be the most controversial thing, but I have never danced Playford. Paul Sarton has never danced Playford. John Hymas hasn't. Corin Wimhurst. They're just fantastic musicians. They understand, they've got musicality, so they understand things like phrasing, dynamics, articulation. These are all things we do as standard. So because I'm not a dancer, I don't have the confidence to launch into something without, getting directions from the caller. So I rely on the caller to give me the tempo, the style, and so that's how I suppose, fudged it for years. I've got away with it. Some people have tried to get me to dance. I saw, yes, Graham Knight tried to get me to dance once. Luckily, I didn't. Anyway, so I have. So I suppose I feel with the instrument as well, the accordion is. There aren't many in America. Is there a reason for that? You could tell me afterwards. I haven't come across. Obviously, there's Rachel Bell, who's just fantastic. With an accordion, it's got the left hand. It's got the bass side of it. It's got the rhythm. It's got the melody. So really, I often wonder, why do we need other musicians? Do tell me. No, seriously. I love working with other instrumentalists, and I can do a lot with my left hand. I started showing you with that Life in the Bus Lane. So I've got my drones, I've got my fifths. I'm going to play you something now. And as I said earlier, I think I overused drones at the beginning because I'm just, I couldn't think of another way of making a 17th century dance tune sound sort of slightly decent on an accordion. So I'm going to play you Mundess because I know it without music. And first of all, I'm going to play it in the style I have heard played before now, which is this umpar bass. I hope you find that as horrible as I do. It makes me, no, it doesn't make me sick, but anyway. So what I started to do, and I know, as I said, I know I did it too much, but I will play the pedals. Not that one, maybe. So there's the first thing I would do is a pedal. I can do a pedal as well on a D, on the fifth. And to those I can add the chords. So I can do that. I could play block chords, so the fundamental and the chord together. Or I could play no left hand, because sometimes I think the melody can be just beautiful on its own. Just an example, I won't play it too often. You've probably heard it and sick of it. But, just think that is a beautiful tune, and I couldn't hear it with a kind of vamping left hand. So that's how I do it. So the best tunes for me, I hope you're going to ask me my favourite, but the best tunes for me are the ones that are the simplest and the ones with the least number of chords. And the reason for that is on the accordion, if, for example, I want to go from C to B major, it's up there somewhere, can't even find it. But, of course, on a piano, they're a semitone apart. So sometimes, and it only dawned on me a few years ago that if I write the chords on piano, I can put a lot more chords in. If I write it on the accordion, I tend to do less because the chords on the left hand of the accordion will disrupt the flow of a tune if you've got too much to do on the left hand. So I want as little as possible on the left hand. So the first thing I do, if I'm sitting there while the caller's teaching a dance, I'll cross out some of the chords. For example, sevenths. I cannot stand sevenths. I hate them in Playford tunes. They're wrong to me, and so I don't do them. But what I have done is I've surgically removed my seventh row. There it is, and it's now fifths. So I can play that tune. Which is a much sweeter sound, I think you'll agree. So I got rid of my sevenths. I don't do sevenths. So I like, I suppose I like less chords, simpler tunes, because I can do more with them. If there are too many chords there, I can't think quickly enough what to do or how to improvise around it. So I think I said this earlier, I was going to ask you a question. Some of the set tunes are, to put it politely, dull. And if it's a 32-bar jig, for example, why can't I play a 32-bar jig that is, in my opinion, better? Because if it's a 32-bar jig that I think is better, I'm going to play it better. And, or why can't, the advantage of it, of course, not only am I going to play it better because it's a better tune for me, but I probably know it without music. So I can watch the dancers and I can respond to the dancers and what they're doing. I can put in breaks, I can do all sorts of things, which I can't if I'm glued to tunes. So I'll be interested in your opinions. I have to say that I have learned a lot of very good tunes, thank you very much, from callers. That's how I met Rachel Bell, because I played Argos Inn and at a dance, and I loved it so much, I thought I must contact her. Someone said she's an accordion player. So I wrote to her and said, would you come and teach at Horsey Manor? That was great. She said yes, and she came. But the best thing of all, she brought Karen Axelrod with her. So we had both of them, and it was just brilliant. One of the best, I suppose, Horsey accordion weeks we'd had. And so that was a good thing. Every now and again, I get a tune out and play it, and I think, wow, that's really good. And people say, where'd you get that from? And I have no idea. Next thing is I go to play for a dance, and they do a Brooke Friendly or Chris Sackett dance. Ahia Moore, for example, is one I think you might know. It's such a great tune. Don't ask me to play it now, but I have taught it. And a guy in London arranged it in 8 parts for accordions, and it just was sensational. And I know there's others I've learned from them. So it's been great from learning tunes, and I end up by teaching them at workshops. So I'm really pleased to have these tunes as well. So that was one of the advantages of playing for dancing, I suppose. So the walkthroughs are crucial to me because that's when I can see what's going on and I engage the mood of the dance and the style of the dance. And so there we are. And I find that if I work with Karen Wimhurst and John Hymas, they're the same. They're just glued to watching the dancers. And Andrew Shaw, if you've ever worked with him, is pretty fussy, and he'll often just stop everything and just say, that's just not what I want. And I think when we started, Paul and I started playing with Andrew, we thought everything was a Morris dance. He used to get quite cross, and but now I think I've got a better idea. So we're gonna play you, Lindsay's gonna play you a clip of a band called Okavango. One of the questions I think I knew might be, why do I only play in duos? Well, I don't. This is a band called Okavango, which was, and the reason for putting this on is because it's John Hymas. It's a John Hymas tune. He's playing violin. Hoover the Dog are in this, a band from Wales. But we also worked together with a band from Belgium when we were allowed to. And I'm not going to moan about Brexit now. But we worked together. We did this big festival in the Czech Republic with all of us. And this is a clip from that concert. I don't think the sound is brilliant and the visuals aren't great, but I think it's a great piece of music. Lucky Seren. Yeah, there we are. So, Okavango. Lucky Seren, by the way. Seren is Welsh for star. Lucky star. I think the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is so great. I'm loving it. Thing number 5, the future.
Right. I said to Darlene at the beginning, this is probably the longest section. I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible. So I want to talk about the future, and lockdown, of course, was a bit cruel to us musicians in this country and all over the world. It stopped us working, and our country seems more worried about people who work in nail bars and hairdressers than they are about the entertainment industry. And it's not just musicians and singers and actors, it's all the crew that go with them. So we're a bit fed up. But so I took advantage of this situation, realising all these musicians. I had a back catalogue of tunes I'd written, and I thought this is the opportunity to try and get everyone to play on my album. So I did. I just wrote to people, and surprise, surprise, they all agreed to do it. And so I got musicians from all over the world. I got the idea because I had been sent 3 books of tunes before this from a friend of mine. I'm going to try and hold this up. A friend of mine who's sadly died since, but she said, I've got these tune books. Would you be interested in them? I said, yeah, I would, and not expecting them to be like this. Just beautiful. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but you can see they're authentic, and I think actually Lindsay might have a cover picture of it. And so I had 3 of these books. Bath, by the way, is very near where I live. It's about 10 miles away. If you ever come to England, you have to go to Bath. Don't go to Stonehenge, because that's a rip-off. But do go to Bath. Anyway, I was sent these 3 tune books. I went along to Faber's, who are a big publishing company in London. And I said, I've got these 3 original books. And they said, bring them in, So I went along. And the first thing they did was feel the paper quality, and then they called all the people in from various departments to sniff the book. And that's how you know how valuable it is, by the smell of it. So I wrote some variations of these tunes for a course I ran. There was a tune called The Maniac, and so I wrote a course called The Maniacs, and with 20 of the tunes from the book, I wrote variations, and the groups, I've divided them into smaller groups, and they all compose variations themselves, and it was just wonderful, actually. They did some very surprising, and that was probably my idea with the album, is to write the music, then get everyone to arrange it. So that's what happened. Because there's a book, yep, and the CD looks the same, actually. Thing about my influences in music have been, I mentioned Martin Hayes earlier, but also Penguin Cafe Orchestra. I don't know if you know them in America. Just a fantastic, probably a 7 or 8 piece band, and I love their music. It's difficult to categorize. It's not classical, it's not folk. I also like Edgar Mayer when he works with Joshua Bell. They do some folk stuff with, Edgar Mayer works with the Goat Rodeo as well, and I love their music. And I'm an absolute fan of the Danish String Quartet, who do Swedish folk tunes, and so this album of mine, both Maniac's album and the album Petrichor with everyone, I wanted it to be a bit like that. In other words, a crossover album. And the first review I got for Maniacs likened it to Jethro Tull or Penguin Cafe Orchestra. I thought that was just what I wanted, actually. So having written all these 20 tunes, I've recorded these, and you're going to hear one of them now. This is Darlene's favourite, and actually mine too. It's a tune called Rudelum. And I think, am I right, that Brooke and Chris are going to write a dance to this? I thought we'd play it longer for you, Darlene. Anyway, that's Rudelum. It's just the original is not quite like that. Anyone who buys a book will see that. And so the band is made up of Corin Wimhurst again on clarinet, and Jill Redmond playing cello, and also Shona Pritchard. So the album, I also recorded an album with Corin Wimhurst. There's a picture of us recording it. We did it in the church in a day with one rehearsal. And I think the results were stunning. Because if anyone's ever recorded an album, what you think after day one is that was terrible. And I went home quite depressed. And at 11 o'clock that night, I had a phone call from Ed Bursey, who produced it. And he said, have a listen to this. And I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe he got that sound out of that recording, but anyway, it's good. So I've worked with Corin Wimhurst, the clarinetist in Pagoda Project, and I met her because I'd done work with her before in other bands, but I was working with Karen Tweed. Karen Tweed suddenly was ill, and Corin Wimhurst stepped in at the 11th hour, and there she is. Someone noted earlier that's a different accordion. You're quite right. That's my old bell tuner, which I still have. And but yeah, that's the two of us. Corin is just amazing. She studied jazz improvisation in America and also in Paris. No gig is ever the same. It's a bit like with John Hymas, because her improvisation skills are amazing. You might hear a bit of it again in a minute, but we'll hear a bit of a tune here. This is It Takes Three to Tango, because a lot of you might think the tango originated in Argentina. I have to put the record straight. It actually originated in Twickenham in London. There we are. Three to Tango. There we are, Three to Tango, and it's the sound effects were supposed to sound like a cafe, and if they enjoy their drinks, they throw their glasses on the floor or something. And I try to get audiences at our gigs to do the same, but it never happens. It's sad. So as I was saying, when lockdown came along, I thought this is my opportunity to record all my catalogue of compositions over the last few years, and the ones I thought were better. And I started inviting musicians along to record. So what would happen is I'd send the music out to them, and they would record locally in their local studios, send the results back, and Ed Bursey again would put it all together in the studio, and it was an incredible feat actually. So there I am, mask on, still have to wear masks, and that was in Ed's studio recording it. And so I wrote to various people. Vaesen in Sweden, I know some of you are Vaesen fans, so am I. In fact, I think they're on tonight. Well, for you it'll be midday roughly. Vaesen, they're now a duo. Narragonia, our Belgium duo, Pascal Rubens and Toom van Mierlo, and believe it or not, in Okavango, which you saw earlier, Toom was our piper. He played pipes and sax occasionally. Roger Tolroth's also on this album. He's a guitarist with Vaesen but has left now. Sheep Stealers are from Andover, and they're a wind quintet actually with a double bass player, Carmen Hurst, Shona Pritchard, and last and certainly not least, Shira and Karen. And there's Karen, she's emotionally, disturbed, as we know. This is before Maisie, of course. So anyway, so Shira and Karen played as well, and they did the most amazing. We're going to hear a bit of Oregon Trail in a minute, which is a dance. I sent the music to Chris and Brooke some time ago, and they sent me a recording from Heydays, which I thought was pretty blooming good. But Karen and Shira recorded in two different studios, obviously one in California and one in wherever Karen lives, Vermont. And so this is a tune for Pilot Rock, and this is it. That was not Karen Axelrod on clarinet, right? That was Karen Wimhurst and Shira and Karen. It just amazed me because they also improvised, of course, around the tune without any help from me. And so I didn't know what would come back, and that was just magnificent, actually. So there we are. That's Petrichor is the name of the album. And all these people, we're going to play another bit right at the very end, which is going to be very quick because I've got 1 minute. And so what's coming up? Well, I'm back to work with Belshazzar's Feast. I'm pleased to say in May, we're doing a live stream from Big Arts Centre nearby. They spent £20,000 on equipment. So we're going to do a live stream from there. And then we go out and tour in June, and we've got 23 gigs. Can't believe it. I'm going to be exhausted after 2 of them. So that's it. I heard today, just before I came on air, had an email from 2 friends of mine in London that were playing at the New Bedford Festival, which is somewhere in America, next year. It was cancelled this year, but it's going to go ahead next year, and I'm coming over for that. So if anyone wants to offer me some work around that, that'd be brilliant. And I'm also doing a project with an a cappella choir, except they're not going to be a cappella because I'm going to play with them. And it's going to be around the cathedrals of Great Britain. And the title is a pun, and I know you love puns. It's called the British Isles Tour, but Isles is spelled A-I-S-L-E-S. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, I knew you love. So, and it's the 150th anniversary of Vaughan Williams' birth, and so 2022, 23, we'll be going around the unit, all these cathedrals. At the moment, we've got 12 plus the Vaughan William Festival in Downhampton where he lived. So there we are. We're going to finish with this track. It's called Minicab Road, and
Paul, actually, I'm going to stop you there because I have a whole bunch of little maintenance stuff to talk about first before we play that. There's a lot of little bits and pieces.
yeah.
But first, we have to ask you, with dancers, we always ask, what's your favorite dance? But with musicians, we ask, what's your favorite tune? Is there a tune that gives you great joy to play?
Black and Grey, whatever is that the correct name of the dance or the tune? But I love that one because it's so simple. Trip to Kilburn, it could be, or something like that. Because Kilburn, of course, is where Cecil Sharp used to live.
Oh, that's great. I actually didn't know
Not
that.
true, by the way.
Okay, I'll believe anything you tell me. Every single moment you said along the way, I went, what, really?
And Andrew Shaw was not related to Pat Shaw.
Yeah. Yeah, we got that in the chat, but that was great. Loved it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I am really looking forward to the after talk. It's going to be great fun, I know. And as I posted, first time our guest is going to be asking our attendees questions. But we like that. I want to give a shout out, thank you to my Five Things team, Lindsay Verbal, and in the background, Reed Wilson on Zoom, Larry Hansen on Facebook, and with my helpers, Kara King and Dan Vilter. We do have an index of all our past web chats, and this one too will be going up. It's now on our website. Thank you, Colin. So we've been doing this since March 2020, and next week is going to be our anniversary. I can't believe it. So after talks are not available publicly, but they are available upon request. And a big thank you to the folks who have been sending in donations to our group. And just to remind you, we have this new fun thing, our little Five Things pin. And you too will get one, Paul. All our guests are getting one as a gift, as a thank you gift. Hey. And it's a commemorative pin and a fundraiser to cover costs and things like that. So thank you. After Talk link is being posted. Coming up next week and at the next weekend. Next week, our anniversary show, Graham Christian is back with us. He was kind enough to do our first show when we had no clue what was going on. And now he's coming back to do his Five Things. So we're really looking forward to that. And then next Saturday, we're having a workshop with Dave Weisler, The Magic of Dance Tunes. We are posting that in the registration. Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, we have tea time. So join us for that sometime, even if you're just popping in to say hello for a short time. We love seeing folks. Sign up for our mailing list. And finally, for donations, you know, Paul does a lot of really wonderful work, and he's working with Hope and Aid Direct. It's a refugee charity. Watch his video. We're going to post the credits for that. We're going to show the screen where you can go to donate to that charity. And we're going to post where you can get Paul's music. Now, Paul, is your moment to talk about the wonderful outro music.
So Minicab Road then is, I suppose there's a great link with Karen Axelrod actually, because at Pinewoods, is Colin Hume here? In his workshop, we sat there making up anagrams of all the callers, bands, names and everything, and it amused us immensely. And so Minicab Road is an anagram, and it's an anagram of Dominic Raab, who was our Brexit minister before Brexit actually happened. It was his job to deliver Brexit, and the first thing he did was create this amazing gaffe by telling us all that he hadn't realised how important Dover was as a port for Europe, and hadn't realised how close it was to the coast of France, like 25 miles or something. So I had a tune title, this came up, and I thought, wow, cool. See if I can get it's sort of name you can get an anagram out of, and it came out as Minicab Road. So there we are. If you watch the whole video, by the way, at the end of it, I think everyone's name comes up as an anagram. but I can't remember what they were. All right, thanks. Well,
Darlene, you're muted.
I'm learning to lip read as well.
I just was saying that is a great video. Everybody should definitely watch it. And we'll see you all in 2 minutes in the after talk.
I'm going to
Thank
try
you.
and find that link, by the way. So
I'll send it to you again. Bye.
bye. Bye.